Good morning, everyone. It's Eric with His&Hers HHQ. And I say morning because, well, it's almost 2 a.m. I am late to the game today. And I usually get up just before 8, so I'm a little tired. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. You know, life gets you busy, and you got to do what you got to do. So I do have primer on some things. I didn't get to the roof assembly as I had hoped, but well, first things first. Steering column. I modified it before I primed it. This is supposed to be the automatic transmission with this car. So, I mean, originally I was thinking 3 on the tree, but no, it didn't work. Doesn't have a clutch pedal. I didn't see anything about it. I'm pretty sure it's the automatic. So, I adjusted the lever. As you can see, if you look at this, the steering column is actually supposed to be kind of something like that. And well, this arm is actually supposed to be flat straight out. Well, I adjusted it so now it's actually in park. We don't want this thing just rolling down the street, do we? So yeah, I did some modifications there. And remember I said I was doing the air cleaner and the valve covers in body color. And I've gotten to see a lot more photos of actual cars. The black engine or that Ford Blue was standard, it appears. But if it was the black engine, the valve covers and the air cleaner were Ford Blue. But again, I've seen hundreds of various photos of actual Galaxies where the air cleaner and the valve covers were body color. And I kind of like that idea, so I'm going to stick with it. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. I like the idea, so I'm sticking with it. I've been doing some modifications. I actually hollowed that bit out. This is the air cleaner. That's the intake, obviously. I hollowed it out because, well, I wanted that extra bit of realism. And then when I got to looking at the fan, I noticed that this here being the front of the fan blade itself, the front was angled the way it was supposed to be, but then it was this thick chunk of plastic and it was flat across the back. And that was just driving me nuts. So I actually spent a while, and well, I haven't primed the backside yet. So as you can see, I did a lot of work to get the angles on those blades, just to add that little extra touch. You know, it's that extra bit of realism. The belt here is primered. I've got to do another shot over here because that's where my little stick was holding on to it. But I noticed that the generator or alternator, whichever one, I'm pretty sure it's the generator. 59, I'm pretty sure it's still a generator. I noticed that the back of the generator was hollow. So I took a small piece of styrene, a square piece of styrene, I glued it in place. Once it was set, I, well, took my little metal file to it and sanded it until it was round. And then I figured, well, I'd add a couple extra posts on the back. That way it's got something that I can wire to when it's assembled. I'm planning on adding wiring to the starter and wiring to the generator all the way up to the battery. Now, yes, the plug wires are, I don't have any of those fancy plug wire kits for scale models. I don't have any of those. And they're probably out of my price range on paydays anyway. So I use this, well, what's called stretch beading wire. It's got a little stretch to it. Picked up a big roll of it for real cheap at Walmart. So I drilled holes since there was no, let me see here, concept of where the plugs would go here. And I went back to photos and did what research I could. But then I, of course, wired it up something where I can grasp the wire after everything is done and ready, and I can get it in the hole there and wind up with a more appropriate length for plug wires and make it work. What I'm planning on doing is keeping the engine primer black, but I'll give it a shot of semi-gloss or gloss, and then I'll finish detailing it up. Of course, see, this is what happens when you're tired. You can't think of nothing. But the distributor cap and everything here will get its touch up. The transmission will be silver. The fuel pump and water pump will get, or not water pump, oil pump. It's maybe oil pump. Anyway, everything will get its shot of paint. I've stated it before. I know people like to use primer as a solid base in which the next layers will adhere to something to make the surface more paint friendly. And yeah, I use the primer for that case, but I do like to use primer, well, to find the ugly, as it were, because in some cases you just can't find the ugly, especially if it's done a certain way. If you'll see here, I got rid of those 4 inner posts, so it's more of a flat surface. Got rid of the number on the inside there, the number 16. So the inside actually looks pretty good. I did go along and add that extra bit. Now, I knew it was ugly before I primed it, but I wanted to use this as an example. So like in this case, I see this ugly here, and I can now come back over it with sandpaper and lightly go over it little by little and get rid of that ugly until I have the look I'm looking for. But this is the ridge I was talking about, kind of like a 55-gallon drum, but it's square instead of a circle. And I need to touch up these bits of exhaust. Again, I am not one, I don't like molded in exhaust, but when you've got no choice, you work with what you got. So this is one of those cases where I was talking about it's an overabundance of detail in some areas, but not enough detail in others. And primer brings out the ugly. Evidently I missed a sink mark, a couple of them. But I'll get the primer on the front portion of this later today and really see how it looks, get a feel for it, and get things cleaned up. I got Mrs. Doe together. She's just waiting for the rest of the cleanup, and then I will get to doing the filling, and I'll do that on camera with my Tamiya putty and lacquer thinner, and see if we can't get her filled in looking a little more real other than the plastic bit here. Mr. Doe over here, well, he was a struggle, and I haven't even put his other arm on yet. But luckily the Tamiya Extra Thin does a really good job of melting plastic. So it's gotten rid of some of the seams or some of the joins here pretty good by itself. But obviously there's still quite a bit of cleanup. And the biggest thing I'm going to be displeased with is getting rid of the detail in that hat, trying to get rid of that ugly up there. The shirt will be a little bit easier to deal with. I just don't understand how a shirt would have pronounced stripes like that, but I guess maybe they did back in the day. Of course, he's wearing sunglasses like he's Joe Cool. But we'll get this all cleaned up. And it's one of those things, as I said before, I've never done a figure. I've never done any kind of figure. I mean, back in the day as a kid, I tried painting up a couple of little pilots for my 1/72nd scale aircraft. But it was really just a case of like a all-around blue or olive drab jumpsuit with a splotch of skin tone on the face, maybe some black for the gloves, and there was there was nothing to it. So I'm doing this is me doing figures. I figured putting them together like this, at least to this point, off camera wouldn't be bad, but I'm going to attempt to do the cleanup, the filling of the seams, or at least the rest of the cleanup, the filling of the seams, and the paint on camera. Once I'm done with the cleanup and the filling all the holes in, then I'll probably prime them off camera and then do the paint on camera. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's where we're at. I did point out that it's treating the build as if we're cruising Route 66, as if we left Chicago and we're on Route 66. We're headed out west to LA. and just kind of treating it like, okay, this is where we're at here, this is where we might be here. Well, now that we are actually getting this point, as you all know, as fellow modelers know, once you start getting primer on things and get the last bit of the ugly cleaned up, things really start moving along. So that's where we're at with this right now. When I prime the body, I'm priming the body in white. The deck lid, the roof, everything I'm priming in white. Because I'm not sure about the colonial white or Indian turquoise. I don't know how they would look on a gray background or a gray primer or a black primer. So I'm going to go completely neutral and do a white primer. That way I know they will pop. So this is where we're at. And if we're cruising along Route 66, I think last video I said we were roundabouts Cuba in Missouri. I was trying to think of the town or city. It was actually in between Cuba and Pacific. If you are headed west out of St. Louis, one of the bigger towns / cities you come to, suburb areas of St. Louis, is Pacific. So we're somewhere in between Pacific and Cuba, our last video. Now I'm going to say we're somewhere pretty close to the Fort Leonard Wood area, Waynesville, St. Robert. So we're really cruising along. By the next video drop, I would say we're going to be Joplin. So yeah, there's those. Real quick, I came across a deal and spent $4 I didn't have to spend, because it was such a monumental deal. I couldn't pass it up. I have to share this with you. See all of these Model Master paints here? They're part of this big old box. I think there is 12, 15, 30, 39, 40 paints. Most of these are still relatively new or brand new. All of these are all of these are Model Master acrylics. There are 2 enamels and then that one big Tamiya olive drab. There was a swap meet going on, and I happened to stop because I just wanted to see what was what was being offered, and I came across this booth, and there they were, and I asked how much they wanted for them, and they're like, well, $4. Oh, okay, well, nuts. They're $4 for, well, I think $4 for the whole box would be fair. Wait, what? Sure, I'll give you $4 for the entire box. And wow, that doesn't, a deal like that doesn't come along often. I spent $4 I didn't have. And there's quite a few paints in here I could use, and the beauty of it is they're all acrylics. Which I I know there's that argument between the enamel users and the acrylic users, the lacquers, the oils. Um, I'm one of those guys that I do love the acrylic, and I do want to try a few builds where it's nothing but acrylic. But I like being able to like lay down enamel as a base. And then when I want to start adding the extra wear, the rust, the dust, the grime, the road grime, I want to use the acrylics. When I want to give certain uh, fake shadows and stuff like that, I don't mind jumping into the oils and your lacquers. I'm one of those guys that just doesn't mind using them all. Um, so anyway, that was my lucky find of the day. Um, I hope all of you have a lucky find of the day. Speaking of, it is Sunday. Happy Father's Day to everyone. Happy Father's Day to my dad, my brothers, um, and my fellow modelers out there, uh, my brothers in arms. Happy Father's Day to all of you. Um, so I'm Eric with His&Hers HHQ. Take a moment, follow us over at or on Facebook at His&Hers Hobby Headquarters. Uh, if you find the content fun and exciting or informative, like, comment, share the videos, and of course, by all means, it doesn't cost you a dime, subscribe. Let's continue to spread the message of model building, and maybe we can build the hobby back up. I'm Eric. Have a good night.